Are you ready to realize the true potential in your life and help others do the same? Get equipped to create a thriving future with the Secrets of Success podcast. Inspire others to live, lead, and work on purpose, and experience the joy of watching satisfaction and productivity come to life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Ken Keyes.
Welcome, everybody, to Secrets of Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Keyes. You know, when we think about life and we think about high performers, just about everybody that's a high performer has a coach. And I am just pleased to have one of my good friends, John Burr, joining us today. And I have the distinction, and before John just says hello to us, is that I was given the privilege to do his 25-year anniversary renewal celebration. So I can't say that for about everybody. So John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ken. Great to be here. It's a treat. It's a treat.
Well, it is a treat, and it's neat to be able to do these podcasts with friends. And, John, you are an expert in the coaching field. You have your own coaching company, Coaching and Leadership International, Inc. You've developed over 80 programs that you're the co-author with Betska, your wife. You're the co-president of the company. Just before we get into really coaching as a critical component to people improving, who is John Burr? Where have you come from? Just give us a little bit of your background of where you went through sort of the corporate world, and then what really motivated you to get into the coaching sort of space.
Interesting. Well, corporately, I spent a lot, about 20 years with the company, and rose from sales up into regional management, and had a lot of success with selling and a lot of success with looking after the region. And then it just, like so many people, it just became time for a change in my life. And that sort of all came together with a move to this incredible West Coast. And getting on the West Coast, it was a matter of, now what do we do? Betska was working on this incredible program, and we looked at it together, and we just realized that there was so much to offer so many people, and there was so much missing from so many people's lives, that it made sense for the two of us to sort of join forces and then take this forward and serve as many people as possible. And that's what
and that's awesome. And of course, not everybody is able to work together with their significant other or their spouse, but you two are a true partnership in where you collaborate and work together in that space together.
And the secret, so many times, is what we teach. And it's that ability to coach each other without judgment.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, if we think about today's society, if I go online, John, it seems like every single person is offended about everything.
Yes. And there's...
What does that, not to jump right into coaching kind of methodology right away, but what does that mean when you do work with people, without judgment? What are you talking about there?
Well, judgment sort of, if there's anything holding us back, it's because at some level we're judging ourselves or someone else in some way. And that holds us back. And to be able to release that, and we become more of an observer of what's happening around us, we're still involved in it all, but we're no longer insisting that we're right and they're wrong. We're understanding that there's a lot of differences. It's a big, wide world. Mm-hmm. And
right.
I don't have the only way of doing everything. So, as my dad used to say, there ain't no one best way. There's all sorts of ways to do things, and mine's I've got to accept it all.
Right, you have to love that English. Well, if you think about progress, or maybe the better word would be trends, certainly in the last decade or 10 years, there really has been a move to people understanding the value of coaching in all parts of their life. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about some of the work that you're doing, and we'll get into some of the unique pieces here later on the show, What is it that you see as the major sort of benefits that people get from having a life coach, an executive coach, a team coach, whatever kind of a health coach? What is it that in your experience working with hundreds and hundreds of clients as well as teaching other people to coach, what is it that you are discovering out there, the benefits of coaching?
I think the biggest thing is where it starts from. When we first sit down with a client, it becomes the biggest thing is that we don't know what we don't know. And people don't know that. So it sort of trips over itself, and I understand that, but everybody feels that they're doing what is right. And that doesn't always fit. So as soon as they put themselves into a place where they start exploring what else is happening around them and other ways of doing things, all of a sudden it's a whole new world. And people open up in all areas of life, right? People all of a sudden realize that there's other ways of looking after themselves on the health area, or there's other ways of interacting with their family and being part of the family. There's other ways of having a spiritual life, whatever that means to them. Not what mine is, but what that means to them. So all 7 areas of life and all 4 levels of existence. We sort of live too commonly, and it's too easy to live with our blinders on and not to sort of reach out and stretch out and be more than what we already are. So everybody I coach with, that's the most obvious thing, is that it starts from that place. We don't know what we don't know, and as soon as they start into the coaching process, new avenues are opening up everywhere. Lights are going on. People are realizing, wow, I never realized that. One person said to me recently, you know what? This scares the bejeebers out of me, but I got to do this. I've got to find out what this is all about. I've got to make the shift. I've got to make the change. Otherwise, I'm going to work myself into an early departure from this wonderful planet.
And
nice
of course,
way to put it, right?
Well, you link right back, and you use some of our work. We'll talk about that later as well. If you just read a lot of the data out there, this is all about creating self-awareness.
Yeah.
And if I'm not aware, if I'm not conscious, sometimes mindful might be slightly different than, being self-aware, but the two are related, is that if I don't know that I don't know, then I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so your process is really and coaching is to really kind of open that up. I want to kind of shift here just a little bit. And John, you and Beska do a lot of work with leaders.
Yes.
And a lot of times people say, well, coaching really doesn't help, or there's not necessarily an ROI. And I know that in your different newsletters that you've sent out, and I'm not sure if you have it at the top of your head, but what's some of the information or the data about the benefit of coaching to people? Why would a business invest in somebody being coached? Is there any proof of ROI when doing coaching with individuals?
Oh, and you're right. It's not at my fingertips, but just from what I can speak off the top of my head, and fortunately, the way that we've sort of put together our entire coaching program is that we start right from day one with the intent that we're going to measure ROI at the end of a coaching engagement. And what we're seeing is that our corporate leaders, our leaders in general, are showing a 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800% change in any given competency after 20 or 30 hours of coaching. So it's quite phenomenal. It's quite phenomenal. I'll share something really interesting with you that in one quick story that one of our corporate clients shared this with me, and he walked into the office one day. He was a leader, and he walked into the office, and one of his employees came up to him and said, "I don't know what you've been doing, but I really like you now." And that kind of stopped him in his tracks because he didn't realize before that people, were working for him but didn't really like him. All of a sudden, the coaching had made him into this person who could relate to the employees, who could engage the employees, who could honor and respect what they were offering, and they weren't just there to serve. And, of course, employee turnover is such a huge challenge in so many industries, and it's so expensive that even if the coaching does nothing except stop the employee turnover, it's big. It's great for profitability, and it really assists all of our clients. But employee engagement is one.
And I imagine, John, that another outcome of that is just productivity goes on when, if I'm working with somebody I like to work for or somebody I don't like to work for, I suspect that affects my productivity as an individual as well.
Huge. Big time, definitely. Yes.
For sure. Well, let's go down that track, John. When you're doing a lot of work with leaders, what are you finding as far as what are sort of the major sort of gaps or trends personally, anecdotally, from you as far as what are leaders missing? What are some areas that leaders you're finding as a trend that they could really benefit developing?
Well, at the top of every list that I've ever seen is whether it's personal coaching or professional coaching, or professional coaching, and I see it all as life coaching. It's just a matter of which area of life we're coaching on in the moment. But it's always about relationships, and as it's the basis of humanity. So it's where all the challenges come from. And if you were to look down a list, if it's about conflict resolution, team building, leadership, innovation, recognition, all those things really go back to relationships. They're just different subsets of the relationships. So all those areas where we help the leaders to be stronger, to understand what their actual competency level is. And it's interesting because when we sit down with our leaders and we say, okay, we're going to do some profiling and assessment, and this is going to help you to understand a bit more about where you're at, and then we're going to ask you to create several major goals or challenges that you want to work on during our coaching engagement. And they rate themselves, and they right up front they say, okay, well, when it comes to employee engagement and team building, I'm only a 3, and I need to be at least a 9 or a 10. Right? So right from the start, they have that opportunity to look and to see, and they know where they're heading with it. And at the end of it, as we talked about before with respect to ROI, they're going to find themselves up around that 8, 9, 10, and really be satisfied that they've achieved what they set out to achieve.
Wow. And when we think about an organization, all the research is clear, John, is that leadership highly impacts job satisfaction and productivity and quality of work done because they really set the tone for the environment of their work group.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Well, one of the things, John, is maybe we can mention it here. You're also CRG Associates, so you use the leadership skills inventory self, which has the 60 skill sets and the 5 categories. When you use it, how do you, that might be one of the profiles that you're using there. So how do you use that specific profile in the context with the leader? Then do you have them fill it out in advance and then post, or just explain to the listeners how you would use the leadership skills self in a coaching methodology or process with a leader?
Yeah, thank you. And yes, we use it every time. It's one of the profile assessments that we use with every student, we use with every coaching client. Definitely, because it opens a lot of eyes, and it really helps people to understand themselves and what they need to do. So basically, in advance of the student starting the coach training or in advance of the client starting their coaching with us, they'll do the leadership skills inventory. They'll lay it all out. We'll review it with them, and then we kind of take we sort of find that middle ground because it's rated 1 to 10 in each of the competencies. We say, okay, let's look for anything where you've scored yourself at a 5 or 6 or less, and I'm going to invite you to add that to your wish list for things to work on and improve. And then, of course, when it's time to create their goals for moving forward, then they go to the wish list and they say, okay, look at all these things. What is the common ground, and how can I put them together to create a goal that's going to help me to really improve in this competency. And then we go from there. And we build their entire learning and development plan in that way.
Well, thanks, John, for that. When we think about, coaches, and I know we actually did a webinar with your group some time ago, is there are a lot of coaches that don't use any kind of benchmarking tools. What's your comment around that if you just kind of throw yourself into a conversation with somebody, as a professional who teaches other individuals to coach? What's the impact of not using, it doesn't have to necessarily be ours, but any kind of system to benchmark?
You know the old expression that failing to plan is planning to fail? Yeah, been around for a long time. And if we just jump in and just start coaching and talk about stuff and, get those aha moments and, create change, that's great. But are we going to make sure that we're really focused in on the most important things in that moment? And so by doing the benchmarking up front, by exposing the clients to all of these possibilities, it allows them to really zero in on what's really important. Otherwise, it's just about, today I stubbed my toe and I want to get coaching on that. So they need that we really feel, and we find out how successful it makes the coaching engagement when they have that plan up front. They create this entire learning and development plan, and it's also part of a big piece of being able to prove the return on investment from the coaching engagement.
It really helps to kind of frame it out with them. If I may add, John, one of the things that sometimes occur, and maybe you can validate this, is that would you say that a lot of the clients or some of the clients, when they complete something like the leadership skills, they weren't even aware of these skill sets?
Definitely. You remember where we started today? We don't know what we don't know. So many of those things we might go through, and geez, I never thought of that, right? I didn't know I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that, or I didn't realize that doing that would sort of assist and make me a better leader. Yeah, definitely. Getting that clarity up front so that they understand the areas to work on. I can't imagine. I've done coaching without a learning and development plan. I've done coaching without profiles and assessments. But all the coaching that I do with the plan in place is totally more successful. And the client's happy because they can measure it, and the client's organization is also very happy because they can measure it. And that's a big piece too, as we know.
Yeah, it is surprising, John. I mean, your experience validates it, so does mine as a coach as well, is that if you've got a benchmark, if you've got some anchors, just going in and having a quote-unquote a therapy discussion with a coach doesn't necessarily even have direction to it, does it?
Correct, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because, you've also had so much experience in this field that, your own experience talks to the very same things.
Absolutely. John, you and Betska have put together, through Coaching and Leadership International, Inc., a very unique coaching process. And, you call it Mind-Kinetics, and there's other words that you use with your proprietary system. Just take some time here now, because are there not a lot, there's a lot of coaching options out there right now.
Yes.
And a lot of people who claim to be coaches, and some less effective than others, and everybody seems to be putting up a shingle, pardon me. How is yours different? What is it that really, the research that Betska and yourself have done, what it really stands apart for your methodology over others that are out there in the marketplace?
I guess one of the really big pieces, Ken, thanks for asking, one of the really big pieces is the whole fact that 95% of our life is run by our subconscious mind. And so, you remember Stephen Covey when he used to say, great man. He used to say, one of my favorite quotes was that between stimulus and response, there's a nanosecond in which we choose the response. And 95% of the time, that response is subconscious. And we learned it when we were just kids, one way or the other. We just sort of soaked it up at, when this happens, I'm supposed to do this. When that happens, I'm supposed to do that. And we do it. We don't think about it. Something happens, and we do what's programmed in. Because we don't have the mental capacity, the conscious capacity, to think through every little thing that we do, right? The subconscious...
Would we call that habits, John?
Well, yeah.
It's sort of entrenched habitual responses?
Yeah, and they're all part of the subconscious, right? The subconscious being 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. And they're all just sitting there waiting to happen. And a lot of those are, obviously, the good news is there's a lot of wonderful constructive things programmed in that happen that way. And that serves us really well. But obviously, we also find that there are too many unconstructive patterns that are also programmed in that we need to shift. And we can do that through a coaching conversation. And those aha moments become, aha, now I get it, right? And they're really amplified. And we're able to then sort of record over top of that unconstructive behavior, replace it with a constructive habit or behavior or pattern, whatever you want to call it. And make
Is there a specific way that you do it in your coaching process that maybe some others don't address the way that you do?
Well, yeah, and obviously it's we don't want to make this a full 6-month call, so I'll try and shorten it down a bit. But it's in our coaching process. There's a very important part of the process called the integration process, where we release the emotional charge, which is the same as judgment of self or others. So right in the beginning today, we talked about that fact that at some level, if something's not happening, it's because at some level we're judging ourselves or others in an unconstructive way. And so,
John, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for our listeners, what do you mean by emotional charge? Can you explain that a little bit for them?
I can. It is that judgment of self or others. It's that judgment.
So could this be for somebody like a bitterness or unforgiveness towards somebody? Would that be considered an emotional charge?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. Thanks. No, that's great to clarify for everyone. And because we're holding on to that, one of the challenges is that we're giving it all our energy, right? That's our focus. And we know that whatever we focus on, we're going to get more of. So,
explain that, John. I know that probably a lot of people listening are kind of aware of, sometimes the law of attraction or whatever word they want to use, but help us understand what you mean. Whatever I give my focus to, I get more of. What does that mean?
It's because this goes back to Einstein and his comments and proof that energy and matter are interchangeable, right? We're matter, but we're also energy, right? And it's all interchangeable. And so it's all energy. And so with that in mind, whatever energy we put ourselves in, and if we keep focusing on that level of energy, on that frequency, on that vibration, on that judgment, on that topic, on that inability to forgive, if I keep focusing on how bad that other person is or how I don't deserve something, then that's what I'm going to keep getting, because that's where I'm giving my focus to. That's where I'm spending time.
John, many people would say, I don't want that. So I'm focusing on the fact that I don't have health and that I'm sick and I'm ill. But you're saying that the more that I focus on that I don't have health, the more unhealthy I will become.
Exactly. Yes. So we have to, and we do it through Mind-Kinetics coaching, and we sort of shift that to that and replace that unconstructive pattern of behavior, that unconstructive sort of recording, if you will, with one that says, I do have health, right? I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wise. Whatever it may be, we sort of replace that so people can start appreciating themselves more. They can love themselves more, and it's going to be a huge benefit to leading a long and a healthy life. I mean, one of the biggest...
Okay, now I might be a CEO listening to this call, or a leader, or a department. What's loving myself have to do with my leaders being coached by you?
Well, it's the same as having faith in myself, right? In my ability to perform and in my ability to do something. If I don't love myself, how can anyone else love me? How can my employees have any respect for me or love me or really perform to their max? So that gets back to the story we just told a few minutes ago, yeah, where the guy came in and said, "Hey, I don't know what you've been doing, but I really like you now." All of a sudden this leader was loving himself more so other people could like him as well. He had a greater faith in his ability to lead and to do his job and to perform. And this was allowing other people to jump on board and really become part of the team now. Instead of...
So this is not from an arrogant or self-centered point of view, but from a self-honoring and just a peace point of view.
Yes. Yeah. Too many people too many people grow up hearing the words, "You can't have that. You don't deserve that. You'll never be anything." Right? Not now, but et cetera, et cetera. And when those things happen, and when it happens, here comes from the right person at the right moment, right? It becomes an emotional trauma, let's say, that sort of locks that into the subconscious. And too much of that sort of makes too big of a dent in the subconscious. And that's how they live their life. And
they're bringing that luggage or baggage or that condition, whatever word we want to use, into everything that they do in their life, if it's a CEO or if it's a supervisor or any kind of staff member or individual.
Yep. And the best thing I heard you just say was into everything they do in life. Because, there may be a lot of areas of life that we deal with and a lot of roles, but we only have one life, and all of those pieces are connected, and what's happening in one is affecting another. If we have communication problems at office, we're going to have communication problems at home, with our networking, with our service clubs, wherever we are, we're likely going to have communication problems.
Oh, great. Now, John, before we get to the end of the show, I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of you. And you also have a coaching school, and you have multiple levels of different training that are available to individuals. But if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and Betska and learn more about your coaching system and process, how might they do that, John?
Several ways, Ken. Thank you for asking. www.coachingandleadership.com. They're welcome to even just to drop me an email, john@coachingandleadership.com, and give our office a call at 1-250-652-5390. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter. The handle is CLI Coach. We're all over the place. We're easy to find.
Okay. And for those that are listening, John and Betska are on the west coast of North America in Canada. And so some of you might be listening in Australia, so make sure you're using Pacific time when you call John. If it's 3 in the morning, he might not be answering the call straight away. The other thing is all your coaching programs are certified under ICF and what's the other? You're part of IIC&M, right?
Yes, that as well. Yeah, with ICF, there's a total of 165 approved coach-specific training hours. So that's all set in place and ready.
Okay, and then with IIC&M, anything that's specific to the members of that group?
Actually, same idea, but it's actually greater approval. There's 300 approved hours with that group. So
okay, wow.
Yeah.
Well, John, as we'll just be a few more minutes, and then we'll just kind of bring a close to our program today. Any sort of words of wisdom, doing all this coaching and everything, that you want to leave with individuals who either are thinking about coaching or what you've learned from coaching so many individuals? As a coach personally, it is a privilege, but it is also a responsibility because you get into people's heads, you get into their lives, and you're really how I want to kind of metaphor, you're holding this little piece of china in your hand sometimes, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to people listening about coaching, or any insights or any pieces of wisdom that you want to leave with our audience today?
If you're not working with a coach, at the very least, start to investigate it. Find out more about it. Take a look at it to see how it can assist you. And you know what, Ken? We can give them some more assistance as well. As you know, on our website and one of our other websites, thebrainwalk.com, there's an opportunity to do some free self-coaching. On our main website, there is also a yellow tab that takes you to some free self-coaching where you can do some free assessments as well, just preliminary things, happiness in 7 areas of your life, that kind of thing, and take a look at where you really are versus where you think you might be. And where you are right now is, I'm sure, serving you well in the moment, but I know, and people always tell me this, that once they start the process, life improves in so many ways. And all of a sudden, they have a better life. They're getting more out of it. It's more worthwhile, right? They're serving self and others in so many wider ways. So,
awesome.
Coach,
when we
do some self-coaching.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, get a coach, do some self-coaching, right? There's a challenge sometimes that not everybody can afford to run out and hire a coach, right? And that's fine. So do some self-coaching. Work up to it. But get yourself started.
The other one is sometimes life priorities, John. You have individuals who will invest in lots of entertainment, and not that I'm judging somebody going to a movie and spending $35 on popcorn, yet at the same time not necessarily investing in themselves and their own development, or watching 4 or 5 hours of TV in a night versus maybe watching a webinar or listening to an audio program of the expert John Burr.
There you go. Yeah,
at the peril of self-promotion. And
right
the other one is everybody knows this, is that elite athletes, you would never have a golfer or a tennis pro or a football team without a coach on the side. So no, you guys just self-organize, or a basketball team or a hockey team. And these people are being paid millions of dollars a year as elite athletes, and they would never think about doing and achieving without a coach.
Yeah,
so why would we be any different, right, John?
Without many coaches. They have many coaches, right?
Well, certainly every discipline is represented within a group. There might be a health coach, a nutritional coach, a stroke coach.
A Mind-Kinetics.
All of that comes. That's a very, very good point, John, that you make there. Any final words, John, for our audience?
Well, I was going to say, we've had the privilege of coaching some very elite athletes to be that sort of, I don't like to use the word psychological, but that to be their Mind-Kinetics coach, to help them get out of their own way, to help them take that next step forward, to release the judgments of self and others that kind of nobody knew were there, right? It's like when you look at the Johari window, that's that place where there's things I don't know and there's things that other people don't know, but they're there. Let's find out what they are, bust them out of there. And, we've seen medals come out of that, so it's fantastic. I love working with people, Ken. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I just hope that everybody out there takes it upon themselves to take another step forward in life. Get more out of life, because it never fails. There's always more than what we're actually experiencing.
Yeah, it's so true. And, you know the stats, and I quote them in just about every blog or newsletter that I put out or a podcast, is that, a very high percentage of people are dissatisfied with their lives. And if you're not going to do anything about it personally or with a coach, then what is going to change? Nothing.
Exactly.
Well, John, I certainly appreciate you being here with us. Give them your website one more time.
coachingandleadership.com.
You have been listening to the Secrets of Success podcast with Dr. Ken Keys, and we look forward to you listening to our next week's show. And in the meantime, if you love what we've done, then share it, like it, tell everybody else about it. make sure that we get the word out so that we can change the world one person at a time. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Ken Keys.
Thanks for exploring the secrets of success with us. If you want to keep the momentum going, log on to crgleader.com. Scroll to the bottom and sign up for our inspirational emails. You can also take your success to the next level by following us on Facebook and Twitter and connecting with Ken on LinkedIn. We hope you have a great week and look forward to you joining us next time for the Secrets of Success podcast with Dr. Ken Keys.